didn't really know how to end this thing. I've been working on it all week, and um, it's been a week. I didn't really understand my week, and then with some nice, um, I don't know, just guidance from complete strangers like normal, it ends up some things end up coming to light that helps kind of make sense of what or why. Um, so in the work that I've been doing, there's a huge contrast between two of like two segments of this business. So there's the very nice segment of this business that is the stores are super nice, very pretty, and then there's the old version of it that is, they're mostly old automotive shops and etc. And so there's like this back and forth um, between the two places. And I didn't really understand it, but then most of the work's going into probably the most beat up of the four, and I think that I'm trying to quantify things that are very esoteric in nature in reality, right? And it's not an easy task. But if I look at this holistically in this situation in this week, I look at the two nice ones, the two beat up ones, and the most beat up of the two, which is where the most of the work needed to go, that really is symbolic of myself because this one's got it's an old automotive shop and he did the best he could with it, and a it's got a basement in it and blah blah blah. So in the work that I'm doing there's also like an explanation that has to happen for the work that's going in as to why what the people want is not going to line up with his budget because there's, like everything in life, there's a fixed amount of costs that can go into it, and people on both sides of the equation may not understand. And I didn't really understand why this stretched out into Monday for all my attempts to make it not stretch out into Monday. But now I kind of understand why it stretched into Monday because I know now how I need to present to the owners of both companies, um, as like an arbitrator between them because I want to see both of them grow and they work well together. But I think that the one company doesn't really understand um, the impact of what they're asking of the other company because he's got existing infrastructure that can be used. The other company doesn't really want to use that infrastructure and actually put pieces in place to prevent him from using that infrastructure, which I don't agree with. And the wanting to use the existing infrastructure, it's January. Outside ladder work in the snow is not appropriate. The what's being replaced is not any better than what's there, so there's not really a benefit to it. So I guess I start looking at how that what does that mean to me? What does that mean within myself? Because, if we're looking at the world around us as a reflection of who we are, there is still core beliefs inside of me that are anchoring me to the place, to the dingy basement of the worst of the four locations. In my opportunities at the other location, I also understand that the opportunities are in the nicer place. So I'm standing there having a conversation with two engineers, and one of the engineers is doing skids, which is something I did for a long time, related to fire equipment, and the other one's an electrical engineer, at the chip level. And it wasn't until I was laying in bed tonight that also in that situation I took the familiar path. I don't know really anything about the chip level engineering, but I do have some questions about something that would be huge at chip level engineering and why they're not doing it. But I missed that opportunity in that conversation because I stuck with familiarity. I didn't step outside my box. And Um, so I think that for me helps make a lot of sense of this last week, and I guess more importantly where to look at the next week. The funny part in it all is, in the weather that we have, I ended up popping a front tire, like, sidewall popped it. Normally I would drop everything I'm doing, go take care of that, fix it right now. I didn't. I hitched a ride, got my truck, came back in the next day, popped the tire off the easy way. Took it to the shop. They warranty, road hazard warranty with no cost involved for me. Went back, put the tire back on. I had some friends that were in town that ended up taking the car back out for me since I had two in town, and it all worked out. But it all worked out very smooth with really only 10 minutes of work involved instead of like hours and hours. And it was funny because I had popped the tire off and I went down the street to this janky, tire shop, and I'm like, I could just spend X amount of money, whatever, and get some shitty tire put on it and that'll get me home. And then I'm sitting there and I'm like, I don't freaking belong here. And I turned around and ended up walking out and went about it the other way. Two phone calls, dropped it off by one of the places I was going to be on my way back, and they had it all fixed up and were wrapping it up the minute I pulled up in the parking lot. So the easier path ended up working out better anyway. Even though, I would still had the temptation of just jumping to the familiar, get it done my um, way, and I'm glad that I didn't. I'm glad I went the other way. I felt lost. I've spent a lot of time. I feel like in the last week, I've spent a lot of time walking in circles because I feel like I'm somewhere new, and I'm not really certain on what to do with where I'm at. And so in my video I made the the penguin. Um, every scene in that little thing I put together, the music, it's all me. It's all pieces of me. So I do hope that you enjoyed it or found some way to relate to it. I've got some pretty complex places inside of myself that I don't always know how to explain. So that's the way I explained them this time, so I could get them out, let them go, and move on to whatever is next. So yeah, there's an update for you. Talk soon.